Joining me now is Dr. Colin Rubenstein, who's retired as a senior lecturer in politics, particularly Middle Eastern politics, and still the Executive Director of the Australia, Israel and Jewish Affairs Council. Colin, thanks for coming by.
Good evening, Andrew.
Should the ABC have reported that call to kill Jews?
Absolutely. Of course, it goes to the heart of the problem. As you correctly said, one only has to read the Hamas Charter of 1988, essentially unchanged, which calls basically for a war against the Jews. Let me read from it. The struggle against the Jews is very great and very serious. It needs all sincere effort. There's no solution for the Palestine question except through jihad. Initiatives, proposals, international conferences, they're all a waste of time and vain endeavours. Palestine is an Islamic land, all of it. So this is the heart of the problem, which serious observers should actually refer to, because it goes to the reason as to why 3 serious peace offers from Israel have been rebuffed by the Palestinians, and why we saw this so-called March of Return has a theme every week. Last week, it's very interesting, they had a slogan, they had a theme, which was no negotiation, no recognition, no peace. This is not about getting more supplies through. By the way, for those that don't follow it, that's those protests you often see on the news of people rushing the sort of fence with Israel, throwing things, burning tires, getting up close and sometimes being shot back at to keep them away. So what I wanted to say is that really takes us back 52 years to the Khartoum Conference in September 1967, after the Six-Day War, when then the Arab world said at Khartoum, no negotiations, no peace, no recognition. So Hamas is 52 years in the past, it's unchanged, and I guess the Western mind finds it hard to take seriously or to believe that this is what they really want. But have a look at what they do. You know, we got the rocket attacks, we got the terror tunnels, we got the incendiary devices, and of course their terrorist behaviour, in the sense they misuse their own civilians and they deliberately try to kill Israeli civilians. Double war crimes.
But here's the point. The ABC does not report instances like I've just given. I don't think I can recall it playing, for instance, that video of children being taught to kill. A video I've shown before of preachers on Hamas TV saying kill and stab and stab. Why do you think that is?
I guess it's a certain worldview. It's a certain bias towards what is cause and effect, a certain sort of innocent and false view that somehow the problem rests on Israel's shoulders. It's Israel, the stronger party, refusing to make concessions, and the poor Palestinians are victims. Can I pick up on that?
I think you're being too kind.
Perhaps.
Because I don't think it's driven by the bias that that is how it is. I think it's also driven by a desire not to let the viewers know that's how it is. Because once you start showing calls to kill Jews like that from the leadership of the Gaza Strip, then of course all your fantasy that you want to spin to the viewers, that Israel's basically the bully here, to blame, disappears.
There's no question. I've got a filing cabinet full of examples of the lack of balance, and we see that repeatedly in a lot of the ABC coverage, consistently, on a range of issues, whether it's the Iran nuclear deal, whether it's the Gaza protests, whether it's a refusal to cover the so-called peaceful Fatah, the Palestinian Authority movement, which of course pays stipends for terrorists, turning them into martyrs.
It pays a pension to people who kill Jews. I mean, this is just extraordinary. Hamas has since put out a statement saying that this man that I showed, Fathi Hamad, does not speak for Hamas, and he himself says, well, in fact, he is on the Politburo, he himself says, Hamas's consistent policy is to limit its resistance to the Zionist occupation, by which he means Israel. So he's walking back to from his call of kill Jews everywhere. Do you buy this? Are you reassured? Are you going home and thinking...
Unfortunately, no, Andrew, because they haven't repudiated the statement about foreign terror cells. They haven't repudiated the statement about armed explosive belts being ready to pick up at your local store. They haven't repudiated the calls for knifing Jews in Israel and killing them.
All of which was in that statement.
It's all there. It's not repudiated. We see it happening day by day. Unfortunately, it's the reality. And even with the Palestinian Authority, which does have a security cooperation with Israel, which keeps it in power. It, of course, is in war with Hamas. They're two Palestinian entities.
Of course not. Labor told us it's one state, and you're trying to tell us there's two rival gangsters brawling over the same territory. Hush. Just finally, the wider picture here, Colin, because I think that the omission of one side of the story here leads, as I said in the editorial, to an anti-Semitism, because Israel then is always positively, always recalcitrant and stubborn and all that. We have seen in Britain MPs quitting the Labor Party there, saying leader Jeremy Corbyn has let anti-Semitism run rife in the party, get out of hand. In the United States, we've seen radical new Democrats in Congress who vilify Israel, Ilhan Omar for one. And just in the past week, of course, here in Victoria, we saw Year 12 students getting a VCE practice exam paper that claimed that Arab families in Israel who practice the Islamic religion were persecuted for that. And when a person is discriminated against, the paper went on, they become religious extremists. So Jews are to blame for Muslim extremists. What's happening here? What's the big picture?
There's a tremendous lack of balance in the tertiary education levels. I mean, the bias in the ABC is, to some extent, an outcome of what's being taught at the tertiary level and even at the high school level. Totally misconceived, unbalanced account of what's really happening, which, of course, at the end of the day, really doesn't help the Palestinians at all. As we see with Hamas, all it ends up in is the Palestinians leading their people from one disaster to another. So it's not achieving any outcome at all, certainly not towards the notion of a peaceful resolution or a two-state outcome between Israel and the Palestinians. There's much to complain about in the tertiary education system and in much of the media coverage, and you're right, unfortunately, to focus on the ABC. It needs a proper independent external complaints procedure, which it doesn't have. These are matters that, of course, this one-sided picture is undoubtedly feeding not only the global resurgence of anti-Semitism, but unfortunately we're seeing too much of it on our own sunny shores as well.
So when you walk to and from your office, if you walk to and from your synagogue, are you feeling safer in Melbourne than you did 10 years ago, or less safe?
Well, there's a good reason why there are security guards on Jewish community institutions. Unfortunately, they're needed, and while we're not on the scale of anti-Semitism that unfortunately we see in other parts of the world, unfortunately it's on the increase and quite disturbing.
Colin Rubenstein, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
After